want to thank Father Andrew for giving me the opportunity to return to St. Mary's virtually for this special program as St. Mary's visits different countries to explore some of the different cultural customs which makes Christmas such a special feast globally. We are going to Jerusalem today, and we will experience how Anglicans, how Episcopalians in the Holy Land celebrate the birth of Jesus. We're actually going to go briefly to 3 different services with the Anglican Archbishop in Jerusalem. Yes, we are able to go to 3 different services for Christmas in the Holy Land because Christmas in the Holy Land is celebrated on 3 different days. Western Christmas, Anglicans, Roman Catholics, and Protestants, December 24th and 25th. The Orthodox Christmas, all the Orthodox churches except for the Armenians, that means the Copts, the Greeks, the Syrians, the Russians, celebrate their Christmas on January 6th and on January 7th. The Armenians, however, celebrate their Christmas in Jerusalem on January 18th, which is their Christmas Eve, and the 19th is their celebration of Christmas. The one Christmas that stands out in my mind during the 12 years that Kirsten and I lived in Jerusalem was in 1990, when Jerusalem Bishop Smir Kafidi hosted the then Archbishop of Cape Town, Desmond Tutu. Every year, the Anglican Episcopalians have a carol service with scripture readings and sermons at a cave near Bethlehem. The YMCA in Beit Zohar is known as the Protestant Shepherd's Field. That service usually has on Christmas afternoon, or Christmas Eve afternoon, around 200 people attending. That year, however, 1990, 4,000 people came to hear Archbishop Desmond Tutu. The Israelis had put a curfew on the cars that day, so everyone had to walk from their homes to the YMCA in Beit Zohar. From the empty parking lot at the YMCA to the cave was simply about a block, no more than that. When Archbishop Tutu and Bishop Kafiti arrived, 4 of us who were chaplains to the Archbishop and Bishop that day, we all linked arms, encircling Archbishop Tutu and Bishop Kafiti as we made our way to the cave. It took 15 minutes to walk to the cave 1 block away because everyone wanted to touch the hem of Desmond's cassock. The cave, and Jesus, of course, was born in a cave, can hold only 40-some people. And Archbishop Desmond preached from a microphone set up in the cave that could be heard throughout the entire campus of the YMCA. So everyone outside the cave could hear the Archbishop's sermon. When Desmond started to preach, he spoke all about the injustices that he had experienced in South Africa during the apartheid time. Mr. Hamburger, who represented the Israeli government's Ministry of Religious Affairs in the West Bank that day, stood less than 2 feet in front of Desmond. Every time Desmond mentioned an injustice, Desmond would say, "You know that I am speaking about South Africa. You know that I am speaking about South Africa." The 4,000 Palestinian Christians would cheer because they knew that Desmond's experience in apartheid South Africa was exactly the same experience they were experiencing in Bethlehem. You know that I am speaking about South Africa. Mr. Hamburger stood silent. Never have I been at a Christmas service like that one in Beit Zohar, a Christian town that simply butts right up next to Bethlehem. Our next stop is the Church of the Holy Nativity in Bethlehem. It is Orthodox Christmas Eve. As we enter the church, we are given a candle that we will light while we're down in the grotto of that church. They celebrate their Christmas on January 6th, Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day, January 7th. The Anglican Archbishop and his entourage are always the very special guests of the Greek Orthodox Patriarch that evening. The tradition of the guest of the Patriarch dates back to the British Mandate. That service begins at 12 o'clock midnight, but we as Anglicans arrive around 10 o'clock, and we are brought inside the iconostasis, which the Orthodox call their sanctuary, where the Divine Liturgy and Eucharist is celebrated. Shortly after we arrive at 10 p.m., the Greek Orthodox Patriarch arrives. The Patriarch greets all of us, and I might say that the Greek Orthodox and the Anglicans are very good friends in Jerusalem. And then the Orthodox deacons start dressing the Patriarch in his royal vestments, and that will take over an hour to dress the Patriarch. At midnight, the Patriarch invites Bishop Kafidi to stand next to him in the door of the iconostasis for the opening words of the liturgy. Then a procession is led by the Patriarch to the grotto right underneath the high altar and the iconostasis, where the church remembers Jesus having been born. Let me assure you, there is no reverence in that procession. The pushing and shoving is as bad as it gets. Everyone wants to be able to be in the grotto for the opening prayers. After that half-hour liturgy, we leave the grotto, and a procession is formed that would take us around what we in the Western Church would call the nave of the basilica, and the procession goes around 3 times. This procession is quite informal. As we process around the basilica, we greet Orthodox friends. We'll stop and actually talk to Orthodox friends, and then continue the procession, and joining the procession once again closer towards the back of the procession. Following the 3 rounds of the procession, that takes about a half hour, the Anglicans will return to Jerusalem, and the Orthodox liturgy will then continue until 4 a.m. in the morning, when the service finally finishes and the faithful returns to their home ready to go to bed, but first they must have a feast on special Orthodox Christmas sweets. What a great privilege it is to be able to participate with the Greek Orthodox as they celebrate their Christmas in Bethlehem. Finally, the Armenian Christmas service is held on January 18th. Only Bethlehem, of all the places of in the Armenian world, only Bethlehem celebrates now that ancient day of Christmas for the Armenians. In the United States, for example, most Armenians will celebrate Christmas with the Western Church on December 24th and 25th, while in Europe, the Armenians celebrate with the Orthodox churches in January. The Armenian section in the Basilica of the Nativity is just left to the iconostasis, where we sat for the Orthodox Christmas Eve service. For that matter, when one walks out of the grotto, the place where the church remembers Jesus being born, one walks immediately into the Armenian section of the Basilica. Christmas Eve with the Armenians is just the opposite of what we experienced with the Greek Orthodox. When we arrive, we're always greeted by the Armenian Patriarch or of the Archimandrite of the Armenian monastery in Bethlehem, Jerusalem. Very few people attend this service, perhaps 50, 75, or 100 faithful. The entire service is solemn, and the Armenian seminarians sing the Divine Liturgy absolutely beautiful. The procession into the grotto to pray at the place where Jesus was born is also solemn, with the liturgy being sung by the seminarian choir. At that service, like the Orthodox service, we would leave the basilica following the prayers in the grotto, knowing that we had joined the Armenian saints who had been worshiping at that very site since the 4th century AD. All three services give different flavors of Christmas in Bethlehem. One, outside in a cave in the Judean hills of Bethlehem. One, at the high altar in the basilica with hundreds of people attending. One, in the absolute solemnity of Armenian chants. All Christian services, all proclaiming the birth of Jesus, all reflecting the great cultural diversity in our Christian family. Merry Christmas, St. Mary's.